The following podcast is scheduled for one fall. Making their way to the set, it's Sam the Lionheart, and Raw is Warren.
Welcome back to another week of the Scheduled for One Fall podcast. I'm Sam the Lionheart.
And I'm Ra's Warren, and boy, what a refreshing breath of air Monday Night Raw was. I have to say, starting off with Finn Balor not needing to keep that Universal title made me so happy.
Well, considering that belt sucks, I think it's actually a good career move, I guess. Not really a move for him, but, you know, I think to look on the positive side of things, I think it means that we can have a good build-up to the Finn Balor winning the championship storyline again.
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole reason why I'm thrilled.
If the belt does turn out to be something that people actually hold against the wrestler wearing it, which I don't think they are, because they were chanting, "You deserve it."
Right.
But it does mean that if you give it to someone who is not worthy, like Prince Devitt was, you are going to get this belt sucks
some backlash. Yeah, absolutely.
If you put it on, you know, a boring guy that people boo already kind of thing, you know, like a very uninteresting, basically not Kevin Owens or Chris Jericho heel, you're going to get, or maybe like a Bray Wyatt, you know,
or a big. I guess Big Cass is over, huh?
Yeah,
well, we'll talk about that in a second. Huh?
Yeah, but my point is that, and I don't know if Big Cass is over enough. That's the kind of thing.
That's the thing.
Finn's over his shit, you know. But if you give it to someone who's not that over, who's not, you know, fucking eclipsing the moon, you're gonna end up with that belt sucks chance. You're gonna get people who, the same people who chant CM Punk are gonna chant that belt sucks.
Yeah, they're gonna do it incessantly. They almost hijacked the original title match, so let's hope that it's toned down as we get into the competition for this week's Raw that we're gonna see. You know, before we get into that though, we understand that you went and saw some wrestling this week.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that now, I guess. Yeah, I went to Future Stars of Wrestling here in Vegas. Local promotion. I've been on and off. I'm not able to follow as, you know, weekly as I'd like, but I try to make big events and usually fail. But this time I managed to get to No Escape 4.
Oh, okay.
It was over at the Silverton Casino, and it was a great show. I'm not going to go through the whole list of everything we're not really going to talk about, but I did want to mention for anyone, you know, who is local, who's watching or listening to this, that is a great show. I've never had a bad time there, you know. And I think Vegas is actually a great spot for indie wrestling, wrestling stars, wrestling cams. You know, I mean, we've got Ryback. Hey, you know, I'm just saying, you know, there's more and more guys that I've seen coming out, making their ways through the indies, working their way up.
Cool.
You know, things
so
like
it's just
that.
a bunch of no names at this show, though.
No.
Oh,
definitely
really?
not. No, there was Willie Mack was there.
Okay.
From Lucha Underground.
I remember seeing him at Money in the Bank. As an audience member.
Yeah. I think someone pointed out and was like, "Is that Willie Mack?"
Yeah.
I couldn't see that. I have terrible vision.
Yeah, he's in Lucha Underground.
Yeah, he was doing that.
The Mac.
Yeah,
cool.
I've seen him actually a couple times here in
Not
Vegas.
to be confused with Da Mac.
Right.
Who's from CWC, who is not Willie Mack.
No.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so he was there. If you've heard of Funny Bone has apparently been doing Funny Bone for a minute, and he was there. He was in a great steel cage weapons match with Cutthroat Cody, who was as over as I think I've seen an Indian guy be. You know, and then the main event was undefeated forever Kevin Cross versus Broken Matt Hardy in a steel cage ladder match.
Oh wait, Matt Hardy was legitimately there?
Yeah, no.
Is his hairline as weak in person as it is in everything else we're seeing lately?
Yeah, I think my first impression was actually, oh damn, he is that short.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's mean,
that's not good. Yeah.
I mean, I got to by the main event. I managed to go from third row to first row because some people left intermission, never came back. So
hey, lucky you.
Stole some front row seats for the main event, and man, it was a fucking trip. I enjoyed it. It was
That's
very
awesome.
good.
You know, I have wanted to see more independent wrestling just because I am such a fan. A few shows I've gotten to go to, whether it be Cauliflower Alley clubs, yearly meets, or which is the original CWC, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
And then the between those and the few times I have gotten to go to the tapings, it's been fun. Even if Gangrel plays an entirely far too emphasized role.
Right. Well, it is what it is. You gotta respect experience in the business, and
sure.
everyone takes their knocks. But yeah, no, I think it's important to support your local indie wrestling if it is worth supporting. So
sure.
There's some backwater out on the boondocks promotions I've seen that
throw them in the bayou, man.
Yeah, exactly. Some guys are just showing up in a beer league kind of way, and that's cool too if that's what you're into. But,
right.
But these guys are putting on good shows, and I wish I could see it more often.
Well, that's cool. Let me know when another one is going on, because I definitely need more wrestling in my life. Let's go ahead and go into the main show. So we have Finn Balor dropping the title, has to, after an emotional speech that the fans, appreciated him for. Yeah. Sad moment. Always tough to see a good wrestler get injured.
And to empathize with Finn for a minute, we don't blame him for winning the title, obviously. No. We're not Finn Balor guys at this point.
I'm a fan. I'm just not a fan of the move at the time. I feel like Seth needed it.
But it does
deserved it, I should say.
But it does make me kind of a mindfuck that they went through with the finish, let him win, and then they turned out to be, you have to drop the title.
Right, I guess he hid the injury as long as he possibly could. In every public sphere, he was without any sort of sling or sign of the situation. It's just backstage stuff leaked through, and then sure enough, we get the full news of the drop. That's really regrettable and too bad as far as his health is concerned. Couple things. One, I don't think it needs to result in the ban of the turnbuckle powerbomb.
No,
sorry.
I don't think so.
Two, I don't think it's necessarily a tragedy, because we're going to get to see yet another, prominent young guy get an opportunity, which we'll talk about in a second. Number three, it gives the opportunity for Kevin Owens to win the title tomorrow on Raw.
Yeah, I guess so.
It literally does. Because the Fatal 4-Way. So the Fatal 4-Way...
Wait, the Fatal 4-Way is not the pay-per-view? It's tomorrow night on Raw?
It's tomorrow night on Raw, from my understanding.
Oh, I'm sorry. I totally spaced out for a second there. I was like, wait, what title match is tomorrow?
Yeah.
I didn't think they'd be doing it that soon. I thought they were going to be putting it on...
Well, Backlash is the next WWE event.
I guess that is a long time to wait for a champion.
Exactly. I think they don't have time to build storylines. They're just going to give it to, somebody.
Do you think we'll get a worthy match, though? Because my immediate reaction is... Oh no, it's just going to be another cable match for 20
I cannot possibly imagine it being anything, because you got 4 guys who can work. Arguably, at least 3. No, you're right, just 2 guys who can work. We have Seth Rollins, of course, who defeated Sami Zayn in one of the week's best matches, which is traditional Sami Zayn work. And we had
best
Kevin Owens.
Best match of the night, match of the year candidate loses.
Kevin Owens beats Neville to get into the match, which is fine by me. I like Neville a lot. I would have loved Neville to be in the Fatal 4-Way. Go ahead.
It's an honor just to be nominated.
For top 8.
Yeah, for Neville to be in a qualifier match.
And we'll get to that in a second, because there's an interesting point to that. It's an honor just to be nominated. We'll get to that in a second. We saw Big Cass defeat Rusev by countout to make it into the Fatal 4-Way.
Yeah, Rusev is like, I already got gold. I don't need any more.
And I think that's fair. Yeah. And they didn't do it in a way that makes Rusev look entirely weak. As a matter of fact, he's almost not relatable, but definitely. Yeah, almost. You empathize a little bit with the guy who's legitimately got bruised ribs, taking a beating by Roman Reigns, who looked like a total tool at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I thought that was a legit double turn, but I guess for one time, everyone's like, man, I wish a face would just beat the shit out of this guy for once. And they chose the wrong baby face to do it.
Correct.
But they're like, oh, yeah, I know how we'll get Roman over. We'll give in to everyone who just wants the good guy to beat up on a bad guy. And they chose someone who's not a good guy and not a bad guy to do a bad guy thing. So what am I supposed to think?
It was pretty... It was pretty questionable, especially with the rest of the card ordering out the way it is. But Big Cass getting an opportunity, that tells you exactly what the E thinks of Cass. I mean, already being considered an upper echelon performer, to be able to vie for the title, I mean, he's got to be thrilled. He's been on the main roster for 2 months, you know?
And, you know, I guess the only negative to take away from that would be, oh no, what if they split up Enzo and Cass, which is a legitimate concern, but I mean, again, can you blame a guy? Like, what do? Do you say, no, Vince, I'd like to stay with my
Cass's charisma is derivative of Enzo's.
Enzo got him over. Essentially is what,
you know, there was that time period when Enzo was injured in NXT, and there was Big Cass
was on a rampage to get revenge. A giant silent rampage.
Right, exactly. The charisma was lost. Totally.
He got to come out and say, hey, you guys, I'm going to beat yous up. And there's only one word to describe you.
Exactly.
You know?
It wasn't a good time period for Cass. So I don't think anybody's splitting anything up. As a matter of fact, seeing Enzo as a manager is not horrible.
Yeah, and to be fair, Enzo,
no haters.
Yeah, not hating.
No hate.
Enzo's not the youngest guy.
Oh, good point.
Enzo's also, I don't know how to put it. He's not cherry anymore. He's not pristine. He's not mint. He's been on the shelf a couple times for repairs.
Interesting.
If you listen to the Talk Is Jericho podcast with him, he talks about it. How he used to do special teams in football, and he's a wind sprinter. He's real fast. He's lightning, and he'd go full speed into guys in wrestling in football, and just get upended like wrestling.
Right.
He was like, wrestling was an easy transition for me because now I'm working with the guy who's knocking me, in backflips through the air.
Now we're friends.
And I think I don't want to misquote him, but I think he brought up something about being like numb on like one side of his body, or one side of his body doesn't feel pain the same way, or something.
Oh, that's
so
eerie.
So that's kind of I think a warning sign, for a lengthy career. So I'm a little worried about the guy, but at the same time, if it stops another, Edge-like scenario where a guy just has to retire early and is, past the point in his career where he can, like, swerve or do something new, that might actually end up being the best thing ever. We might get the world's greatest manager since Paul Heyman.
I could definitely sense Enzo really excelling in that role. And
Which
he already
not
does.
To say that I don't want to see him in the ring by any means.
Well, I don't feel anything for his in-ring work, to be completely honest with you. The latest wrinkle to his moveset, which is finally some semblance of a signature or finisher, the diving DDT. That's nice. I'm grateful to see something come out of his offensive repertoire that says, I could potentially put a guy away, but that's literally it,
Right.
Apart from being thrown around by Cass, I don't feel anything from Enzo's in-ring work. His charisma's off the charts, and he could be a mouth of the South, like Second Coming, for sure. So
Smack Talker Skywalker.
I love him. I think he's great.
Match with Kevin Owens. When he was like, you got a lightsaber for me or whatever it is, nerd.
High five.
He just tags in his partner and they just stomp the shit out of him.
That's so funny. I mean, Kevin Owens is the ultimate troll. But Big Cass getting the nod, getting the recognition, getting an opportunity, that's kind of neat. Do I wish it was Neville? Maybe. Do I wish it was Sami Zayn? Yeah. But it's okay. Cass, the E is appreciative of what Cass brings to the table, and that's a legitimate 7-footer who doesn't move like a 7-footer yet, who can already do more power wrestling moves in the ring, either by will or not, than Roman Reigns. Yeah. So I'm good on that side. Roman takes out Chris Jericho. Hopefully that's punishment enough for Chris Jericho's role in
apparently he handled the whole Lesnar Randy thing unprofessionally.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree. Obviously, he could have handled it calmer from the reports. I wasn't there. I don't know.
He didn't actually hit the guy.
Right.
Apparently, he went forehead to forehead. But that, again, that I get big props.
But here's my only thing: is from the story I heard, Jericho went to, I guess, Michael Hayes or somebody.
He went to gorilla position in general and asked the entire gorilla position in turn, what the hell is going on?
Well,
what's the plan?
The story I heard was that the finish, and they wouldn't tell him. So he said, that's bullshit. That's the story I heard. He said, that's bullshit or something like that afterwards. And all they had to do was tell him that's the finish. If it really was the case and he should have butted his nose out, tell him it's the finish.
Yeah.
Tell him to calm down. This is the work. That's all you had to do. That's what they told the WWE Universe. And the thing is, it's all a work until it can't be. You know, everything in WWE is a work until they can't admit it any longer.
Until somebody's hurt.
Yeah, until they have to admit it. So if Randy sat there and told the ref, no, it's fine, I'll need stitches, I'll be, it's all a work until then. And it's fine. It's fine. If Randy's fine, if he's cool, it's cool.
Yeah.
But Jericho didn't know that. We didn't know that. Nobody knew that. And that's when wrestling crosses that line, when it goes that squick factor of, am I legitimately worried about this guy? Because I love watching Randy Orton get the shit beat out of him. That's why I watch wrestling. To watch guys get the shit beat out of them without getting hurt. And so
I prefer it when people go out there and
beat up John Cena. But we digress. That's what we want. We want beatdowns. We want that. That's what it is. You know? So it's that with storytelling, and you lose the storytelling when it just goes, oh shit, is he really hurt, or is that part of it?
That's a chunk of his forehead gone.
Yeah.
I still think that was part work, part not.
Again, we
I know we talked about last week, but a week hasn't changed that.
But Jericho's thing is, what happens if it's not enough? What's the punishment there? What is the full spectrum of that?
I worry. First of all, they had a great tag team thing going. They have some good heat. I think that everybody's already saying Seth Rollins is going to win so much that
I feel like that's natural. I think he's just the natural selection.
Which is exactly why.
Natural selection. No, I'm sorry. Too many guys have done that.
That's true. Yeah. Thank you for, moving away from that. I think that Kevin Owens wins this week because he's over as hell. He's in a tag team with Jericho, but he could capitalize on his partner maybe being in the doghouse a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And literally have Chris Jericho be the first guy fed to him because he's the new guy on top. It's a great way to build Kevin Owens, who could use legitimacy as a champion.
We haven't had a Kevin Owens versus Chris Jericho match anyway, have we?
We have only once, and it was in one of the I think it was the Beast from the East special.
Right, but it wasn't part of a storyline.
Or not Beast in the East. It was one of those. It was him versus Jericho off TV.
Yeah, it was on the network. And it wasn't like a storyline gig. It was it was an exhibition match.
It was that Brock Lesnar Hell in a Cell March to Hell in a Cell thing.
Okay, something like that.
I believe it would be a good match. I believe it would be a great way to put Kevin Owens. And you know what? If one young guy, we're using in quotations here.
New guy.
If one new guy isn't holding it, then let another new guy do it. And I think Kevin Owens is the correct pick. Roman, nobody wants to see with the title. Let him continue his weird, awkward feud with Rusev and cement a heel turn, maybe. And then Big Cass, bless him, bless his heart.
Just too new.
He's too soft.
He's too soft. Just a little soft around the edges.
Little bit of seasoning would be preferred.
The cut of his jib is just a little too clean.
There you go. Exactly. He needs to get fucked up.
He needs to suffer a loss.
And Seth,
too many guys win the whole thing without suffering.
I think Seth looks like he's going to win it, and then Kevin Owens out heels him. I think that's how it's going to work.
I think Big Cass does all the work, and then Kevin Owens.
No, I think Roman will clean house off of a Big Cass who just cleaned house, who then will eat something from Seth. Seth looks like he's going to win. Kevin hits a pop up for the win. Which, hey, if it's booked that way, I'm happy.
So I think Seth Rollins should win.
Sure.
I think he needs to win. Like I said, it just seems natural. He's the guy who was champion, who hasn't lost it legitimately. You know, he's lost it on a cash-in. He's had to drop it. It's still a pinfall loss, but it's not a match. He didn't lose it in a full match or anything. So,
no, except for when he lost it to Finn.
Yeah, sure. We'll count that, I guess. He didn't drop the title, though. He did not drop the title to Finn.
No,
that's not
correct.
That's not.
It was still his first pinfall loss in an eon and a half, apart from that Money in the Bank.
To a bunch of drop kicks. Can we please erase that match from the internet, like Chris Benoit? Like,
I don't know. To be honest, the match wasn't bad when I went back and watched it a second time. But
the point is that
everything was a little limited.
The point is that okay, so Finn's better than him. Sure, that's fine. So Finn's up here, and then Seth is here, and here's everyone else.
I agree.
You know, you're telling me, then the story basically becomes, the story becomes, if someone beats Seth, and I mean, it's a fatal four-way, and you can argue, if Seth doesn't win this, there's someone at least between him and Finn. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know, there's someone above him that has to find out if they're better than Finn.
That's true. I agree. That's another reason, wait, you just said that. What if somebody else wins it, like, that's bringing somebody else up to the Seth Finn level. You know what I mean?
Right, but
which is a plus.
But that's how the E sees it, but how the audience sees it is, why the fuck is that guy in between them? You know, why does that guy get to be better than Seth and at the Finn level when they're not? Mm-hmm. That's my point is if Seth doesn't win this, then you're saying that one of those other three guys are, you know, as good as Finn Balor until further notice.
And I personally believe Kevin Owens is.
Well, that's fine, and I think Kevin Owens is the only one in the match who can
win.
But I still think Seth is just right above him. You know, I think Kevin Owens can be, and that's fine if they build it that way, if they do it right, if they do make it him out healing him in a clever way or something, and not just I hit the power bomb first, you know, I hit the power bomb last. But if he does actually get the snake win, I think that's the best way to do it.
Sure.
But you know, my point is that I do think that right now with Finn benched, before Finn was benched, Seth's the top guy. He's the man. He's the best. He deserves it the most. And he lost his title to a Money in the Bank cash-in and had to drop it before that. He's the guy who beat the Roman Empire, you know. And,
that's true.
And Roman's in this match, so.
And as you know, I'm not going to argue too much with Seth winning. I think that's what's expected.
Yeah. So for me, it's Seth or Kevin, and for you, it's Kevin or Seth.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I don't think Roman or Big Cass walk out with it. Happy for I guess I'll say happy for both. Roman's doing some more, heelish kind of stuff that makes me hate him less. Mm. So, but it's only just. So, another story that happened this week, we had the cool Chris Jericho circumstance, but just as a veteran maybe on the way out for being in the doghouse, somebody gets called up to make way for more opportunities. We've had Bayley debut on Raw.
Yes.
I'm so happy for her.
Yeah, no, it's great to see Bayley on the main stage. She looked great. She looked competent. She didn't, they didn't botch a whole bunch of shit. Nobody dropped her, so that's a plus. You know, and I think she got a good enough pop from the crowd.
She got a great pop.
I do think if you go back and watch, I don't think it was at Brooklyn. Yeah, it had to be on Raw. I'm pretty sure she missed her entrance cue. She walked past the wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man,
and then backed
up. And then had to back up for it and do the thing.
Hey, man.
And that's just, but the problem is it's Bayley, so that's adorable and kind of within her character.
Thank God. Clumsy and not attention to
I'm
detail.
happy to be here. I am afraid, though, that now that she is on the main stage, and now even more so that John Cena's gone, they could actually just bill her straight up as like the female John Cena like we were seeing.
I wouldn't call that a fear, like a bad thing, in other words, yet.
It's great for her career, obviously, but...
She's wrestled great matches.
She has, but she has had some tendencies, especially not at the takeovers, to have matches where people just have her down, beat, dead to rights, and she just stands up with them on her back and throws them off.
Right, no, she's
had some tough, gritty, I'll just never give up moments, but she has at least tapped out.
But she looks... Sorry. Sorry.
It's like 4 a.m.
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah, sorry. Long day.
Yeah.
She looks legitimately like... She looks like somebody you can root for as that underdog who will overcome. Cena's never really looked like a guy who is weaker than the person across the way, but Bailey is
not since like 2007.
No, I know.
But I mean, he used to go up against the Big Show and picked him up, and he went up against older, more experienced guys.
Bailey's not going to Bailey to belly Nia Jax or anything anytime soon, for sure.
I bet it happens before the end of the year.
Well, okay.
I bet it doesn't look very good, but I bet it happens.
Yeah, Nia does a good old-fashioned leap for her.
Yeah, but there's been quite a few times where Bailey just kind of like has the crowd behind her, and she almost like hulks up on people, and I'm just kind of like, oh no, a lot of her storylines in NXT, at the takeovers. For a lot of stuff that wasn't involving Sasha or Asuka, was involving like this, oh no, they're just like bigger, stronger, being up like the Nia Jax matches, but the biggest example.
Yeah.
But she's even had one against, I think it was Dana Brooke, and one against Alexa Bliss, not takeovers, but on the network and stuff, where they just kind of like withstood her early offense, did some dirty stuff, worked a part of the body, did their heel bit. And then she just like, So
it all depends on the crowd reaction. If she's able to garner the reaction nationally, like WWE's hoping for, then she may very well become the female John Cena. Which, by the way, wouldn't it be great to have a female John Cena? If you think about it, isn't that a good thing for women's wrestling to have somebody who is such the face of the division that they're able to bring just an automatic air of not just credibility but legitimacy to the stardom of the division?
See, I don't think it does any of those things. I think it means that Bailey matches are now going to be booked terribly, and they're going to be boring, and she's going to do 5 wrestling moves.
Well, as soon as that happens, I'm right on board with your worry. But
she's had some matches like that where she's done 5 moves. That's my point.
But it's been dragged out.
A little, yeah. It's been dragged out long, and then she doesn't do anything the whole match, and then all of a sudden hits 5 moves and win. That's my fear, is that her matches end up that way. I see what you're saying, where if someone's such a big enough star and has such appeal that you could compare them to John Cena, but that's not the comparison I'm making. I'm comparing her to being the female John Cena as in...
what she's booked
as in, bland, clean-cut character for the kids.
Yeah.
Because her character's lost a little bit of step when she was champ. Because her character has always been, people say I can't do it.
Right. You could argue the same thing for Sami Zayn.
Yeah, that's a legitimate fear I have with Sami Zayn, especially if he keeps losing. That's kind of a weird take on the Ziggler problem. Is everyone says I can't do it and I'm just a loser and I always get this close but I never do it. But you always do get this close and never do it. And then now you're this far and then this far, and then against Dean Ambrose you were like this far. So
good point. Excellent tie-in.
It's either the Dolph Ziggler travesty, or it's the 5 moves of doom.
We'll have to see how it plays out, and I think that's good that you have a counter offer to my simple "Yay, Bailey's here." But
sorry, I wasn't just "Yay, Bailey's here" because
I'm
love
glad
Bailey.
You do.
Yeah.
The whole point of a podcast is that we're not supposed to agree on everything.
Oh, I thought you were being really sarcastic for a second.
No,
I've never heard that Kermit the Frog voice before.
Kermit the Frog here, wondering what professional wrestling is.
Stop that. But so Ziggler's a good transition to SmackDown.
I guess. SmackDown was a well put together show because it's focused, in my opinion, on, first of all, introducing 2 new titles. You don't like
SmackDown has cemented itself as the number 2 brand. They give out silver medals. Who the fuck? Even in the promo, Heath Slater came out and said, "Let me win some gold, baby." Motherfucker, they're not gold.
They're not gold. Yeah.
Am I wrong? Is there like a gold fleck somewhere on there?
No, I
didn't see gold.
That too. Unless the tag team titles are plated with white gold.
Yeah, is now the WWE World Heavyweight title going to be plated with silver instead of gold? Wouldn't that be god awful? That's where we're headed, motherfuckers. You want silver medals in wrestling? That's how you get silver medals in wrestling. You have 2 fucking brands.
All that aside, I actually kind of like the look of the belts. Like, I enjoy the blue leather. I like how they're branching out the colors. I'm sorry. I think it's fun and creative again.
The only problem, too, is that it stops it. It just feels weird. It's like, I'm the king of this playground. You're the king of that playground.
Well, I get that. Which means,
it's not, I'm the world champion. It's, I'm the best over here.
I get it, but I think it's the scheduling of everybody's travel that is limiting all of that
not disagreeing
promotional play. You're not disagreeing, yeah.
I'm just it sucks. It just sucks.
It's tough.
It just sucks.
They were great story building opportunities, and maybe now we'll still see great story coming from those various divisions. Yeah. But we haven't seen this many belts in the E since the early 2000s, I think the second women's title actually officially makes it the same number as that time frame back when they had the Hardcore Championship.
Well, because the normal roster, I guess you say, was SmackDown WWE Championship, Tag Team titles, and Cruiserweight, and then Raw had World Heavyweight Tag Teams and Women's. Mm-hmm. So... Well,
plus there was European before they got rid of it, that's what I'm saying, and then the Intercontinental...
During the brand split?
And then the Hardcore title. Yeah, there
was the very beginning of the brand split.
7 of them.
They shrunk them all down. They had unification.
And now I think we're going to have 7 again. You got both of the world titles. You got both of the tags. You got both of the ladies. Now
ICUS.
Now you got IC.
Those are the 2.
You got US. Yeah. Holy cow! And you got the Cruiserweight. Like, man, they are totally inundated.
Yeah, those are
totally inundated with titles.
Yeah, and it kind of and I mean the look of the titles really don't matter in the end. It just kind of sucks that when I see it, I want to like erase it from my mind and look at the wrestler now. It used to be really cool to see guys. Some guys look great with the strap. Some guys, the way they wear it just looks cool. Just fits them. Triple H always had this weird, awesome way of just having it cinched kind of high up on him, And,
yes, that's true.
Up on his waist or up on his
hips so elegantly.
Yeah, he wore it real tight and shit, and when he had the leather jacket on, it looked like just part of the outfit. It looked like Triple H's little fashionista, But when Stone Cold would come out and he just fucking drag it, flip-flopping around.
Yeah, I love how he carried it like he just couldn't give a flying
The Rock
The Rock would carry it from the end of the strap and almost drag it too.
Yeah.
And
when he was heel Rock, when he was face Rock, he'd have it
on his shoulder.
Yeah. But and so now I don't care what they do with it. I don't want to see it. It doesn't really mean anything. I mean, if American Alpha wins the tag team titles like they're going to and should, fuck you if you don't. Cool, they're their tag team champs. That's all I need to know. I almost feel like just if you're not gonna have good enough belts, just fuck the belts. Just say a guy's a champion and they go woo. Like
I like the belts.
Does that not sound terrible with the no belt situation? Like
no, of course it does sound terrible, but I just don't think these belts are that bad.
Well, it can't be compared to the fucking Universal Championship.
Got it. Cool. Colors. No colored straps or alternatively metalled titles.
Yeah, alternatively metalled's pretty bad. It's so bad. It's so bland and so unappealing to my eye. I can't even make out like what the fucking plates are.
That's true.
I can't even see. I think they're supposed to just be silver versions of the 2 like Trojan helmets.
They are. They are exactly that. Are you? So I take it you're more offended by the tag team championship than the SmackDown Women's, which just literally turned the central field from red to blue.
Yeah, I mean...
That's fine.
When the women's did the red thing, it was cool because it was different for the women's belt. But what was neat about it was it had the same faceplate as the men's. And that's what made it really awesome, was that they said, your belt's not some stupid butterfly bullshit anymore.
Right.
It's a big, giant, fucking diamond-encrusted thing, exactly the same as the men's, but a little different color, you know?
Right.
A little... and a strong, passionate color, like
red.
And I prefer blue to red, don't get me wrong. But it's not a championship color, really, now that I've seen it. And it's neat. Don't get me wrong, it's neat that they're color-coded for the show. But I don't think it's necessary, and I don't think it really enriches the belt. And the basis I have for that is I feel like it actually dragged down the women's title with it. Because it stopped being this cool, awesome statement, and now it's just, oh, it's red because it's on Raw.
Well, here's the other
thing. It's the same as that other one, but it's on Raw. And this one's the same as that one, but this one has worse wrestlers.
For now. They might get better. We talked about
What did I say? Bailey was coming to Raw.
You definitely...
The Raw lineup is stuck.
Yeah, hey, SmackDown got Nikki Bella. Said no one ever.
So the thing that actually happened on Talking Smack that we're supposed to talk about.
That is coming up. I will say one more thing. Just to prove your point, though, to actually agree with you, the biggest reason why those two championships have cemented themselves as the B level is because it's not... I mean, on Raw, it's the World Tag Team Championships and the World Women's Champion, the WWE Women's Champion. Yeah. And on SmackDown, it's the SmackDown Women's Champion, and it's the SmackDown Tag Team Champion.
Which that'll be, a slow, inobtrusive, grind where they just slowly start slipping SmackDown World Champion, World Tag Team, and SmackDown, and they'll start saying Raw World Tag Team Champion, Raw Women's World WWE Women's.
Which means we've got to see some pay-per-views where they clash, please. I mean, ideally, we didn't have Clash of Champions wouldn't be coming up so quick because it'd be great to see some of our champions go head to head.
Yeah, and I really do think that there's a decent chance that they just reunify everything by WrestleMania. That seems like such a short track, but I wouldn't be surprised if it doesn't really take off and you don't really get the response that you want. If they don't really see like ratings go up and stuff, and they see. And they hear the complaints about the belts, you might just get a bunch of reunification shit as the main draw to WrestleMania. Check out how big it is. It's going to be, Dean Ambrose versus, around WrestleMania, we'll say, hopefully Seth Rollins. For the unification, that's a big deal because it's the Shield Bros, because that's a big thing. The best thing I think that actually came from the brand split is they got Dean Ambrose the belt and away from Seth Rollins who can fight for other belts.
Take a break. Well,
just so we don't have to see rematches and we have an excuse for them not to battle.
Well, and that's too bad.
But now I'm looking at it as they'll never get to battle.
Well, that makes you realize how much closer it is to a Kevin Owens Sami Zayn feud than to a Randy Orton John Cena feud.
Yeah, exactly.
I love watching Seth and Dean fight, and I think, however, Dean has some new toys to play with on SmackDown. The AJ Styles Dean Ambrose match has got me intrigued.
Yeah, I'm finally on the AJ Styles train.
Yeah, he's been so good as a heel. I wouldn't be surprised if this week we see, him knocking off Dolph really does put Dolph, in another questionable position so quickly, which means I think this is when he cements his heel turn. And we get a John Cena-Dolph Ziggler match at Backlash, and Dolph wins. I think
and then
Cena's
John
in a
Cena
position...
finally gives up like the loser he is.
Which, all of those things would fit well. I think, look for this week those puzzle pieces to come in.
So, John Cena comes out and goes, well, AJ did it. He beat me up. I'm a loser. And then Dolph Ziggler comes out and says, what, you think you're a loser? I'm a loser. Yeah. Look at all the losing I've done. And then they have a battle of the losers to see who's actually the biggest loser.
Which means in the end, Cena will win.
Yeah.
Yep.
Finally.
Yep.
Finally, Cena wins by losing. Yeah. Yep. He has done it all, motherfuckers. That's his I quit speeches. Fuck you, I just won by losing. I've done everything. I'm the greatest wrestler ever. I'll see you in the Hall of Fame, bitches.
Cena can do whatever he wants at this point.
Yeah, no.
He did wrestle the legitimately best match of this past year's SummerSlam, and you could argue he was part of the best match of last year's SummerSlam too. Yeah. I'm over disliking John Cena because honestly, all that time he was gone and he came back and he's wrestled these last couple matches, I have regained my appreciation for it. The different ways he's made his in-ring work more enjoyable. Does he appeal to the pathos as much as I'd like? Make it an emotional match. No, but he usually does that well with any other storyteller in the ring, able to bring that out. So I'm done making fun of John Cena. I can't wait till I can say the same for Roman, but it's going to be a minute.
It's going to be a while.
So yeah,
his in-ring stuff has been top notch. As far as you can say, there's still I still fight some negative bias from previous matches and stuff, and there's still some stuff like you said, the storytelling he's just never gotten. It's just that's just when he got popular was when storytelling was really not a part of in-ring work. It was all done on microphones. He's one of the most
awkward sellers in the business because he looks like he doesn't have to sell.
Yeah,
he just looks like a guy.
He looks like a big guy who, now that he's starting to sell little guy moves, is like, oh fuck, this actually kind of hurts and it slows him down.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh shit, how do I take an insaguri?
I stand up, I go blank, I fall.
Yeah,
he has no other means of taking it. Have you ever noticed that?
Or he
always takes the over-dramatic method instead of like a good old-fashioned, oh, well, my face hurts.
Right, and John never does the I'm knocked out for a second thing either. He falls down and immediately just starts moving and stuff. He never just goes still.
Big flopping moves.
Yeah. He also does this thing that I fucking hate because it just seems like bad wrestling, and far be it for me to critique a professional, but, he'll sell a move that's like a drop kick or like a high impact physical like running strike, and he falls backwards onto his hands and his butt sideways, exactly how I would fall if I were like trying to fall and not hurt myself intentionally.
It's like I punch you on this side and then you flop this side on the
and I flop this way onto my hands and my thigh and all where my most padded body parts are.
I wonder if he has a hip challenge or anything like that. Maybe he's got some health issue that keeps him that.
We talked about it.
But then again, he does the flying leg drop onto a standing guy from the top rope, so he can't be that hurt.
Yeah, but he
does have quite the ass, doesn't he?
I didn't watch that movie. We talked about years ago, actually, where it seems like Cena doesn't take the same kind of back bumps that other guys take. Whenever he does like a Luthez kind of bump, just like falling onto his back, he always like looks backwards, puts his hands out, and usually falls like on his butt and stuff,
Which is why Seth Rollins should never perform a turnbuckle powerbomb to him on the barricade.
Because he'll turn around and just... Yeah. I think that's how he fucked up his elbow the first time. He had all that bursitis up in that shit.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he just put his fucking arms out on a back.
That was so gross, too. Remember how big that baseball was?
Yeah,
oh, my God.
Jesus.
There was one other thing I wanted to talk about before we get to the true hot topic of the week, the main event, if you will, that involves indeed talking smack. I want to give a quick thank you for the Dudley Boys retiring this week. Bittersweet. I mean, I hope if it's really it, that it's really it. I think they're saying that it's really it. Some others say no. I will miss who they were, and their legacy is certainly one of the best in tag team wrestling history. Maybe, if not LOD being number one, then they're certainly number two. The Dudleys have done so much
them
for
over
the
Edge
business.
and Christian.
As far as pure tag team wrestling,
that's true. I guess they were tag team pretty much their whole career. They never really broke up, split off, or anything.
Not in the mainstream, not in the relevant promotions.
Oh, yeah.
And I think Edge and Christian,
when they did split up, they had to be put back together.
Right. Exactly.
Edge and Christian did manage to win titles as singles, both.
Yep. Yeah, which thank you very much that they finally gave Christian a strap. I know it was probably only because Edge retired, but still, it was nice to see. That's going way back. Anyway,
he had to go against Del Rio so much.
The Dudley Boys were wonderful for being just damage sponges. You look back, they were just...
Oh, man.
Bubba's one of the guys who could take the biggest bumps for the biggest guys.
And a big dude who takes bumps consistently is something WWE has lacked probably like on a ratio level, like the whole time.
Not to mention, you have to say he's got some of the best in-ring subtle. Like, you know how we always love Kevin Owens' subtleties? All the little things he does to drive home a match.
Yeah, he was one of the first real vocal guys.
Bubba was still adding stuff to this day. He would be like stomping on people and being like, "You stupid idiot!" Like, and being like you could hear him. That stuff is
he was
what builds.
Yeah, he would do all the heel cheap pops all the time. He's always got throwing "This Town Sucks," but in the middle of a match.
He also had one of the more impressive move sets of tag team wrestlers. And he had
Bubba Bomb.
The Bubba Bomb, the Bubba Cutter.
He did the Bionic Elbow.
The Bionic Elbow with the tribute to Dusty Rhodes.
Yeah.
He did the running power bomb.
Yeah.
You know.
Did a lot of power bombs in his time.
Yeah, he's got a great move set. I mean, Devon being for what he is. I mean, talk about a guy with humility, always being the other guy in the tag team, but never letting it bother him. He was always true to himself.
And having just as impressive of a moveset at the end of the day. He didn't have all the power moves, but he had the diving headbutt, which was always a spot, always since its inception, a big thing. They even did during their final hurrah.
Goodbye.
A must-have inclusion. He did diving elbows, spinning elbows.
I loved his spinning elbow.
He had, at one point, I think he stopped doing it later in his career, but he actually had a really, really, really great, low drop kick kind of thing, where he would drop kick sideways on a guy and just pop him right in the thigh. He stopped doing it later on. I don't know why exactly, but early on he had a really good drop kick when he was doing the Testify single stuff with Batista.
Okay, I believe it.
Yeah, and one of the forerunners of atomic drops and flapjacks,
Yeah. Oh, no kidding. It's tough to see them go from oh my youth, no, come back, but it's fair. They weren't doing anything in the main roster. I was bummed to see that they're completely out of contract with the E right now, because if anybody, and I mean anybody, could have gone down to NXT and done wonders for the Performance Center, it would have been the Dudleys.
I think so. I mean, those guys probably just want a break, man. They're probably just ready to relax a bit, and they'll probably come back, once they figure they need to get off the couch and, do some DDP yoga.
The rumor is that they'll be back sooner than later to do one more battle with the club, and if they do that, that's fine, but you just marked Henry to us twice. I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I prefer, one way or another, to get to say, thank you, Dudleys.
Yep.
We will miss all of the positive memories we have of you putting on amazing matches that were far too violent than the majority, and taking awesome damage at the expense of our entertainment.
Yeah, no, we always get soft for guys once they retire. We always want to look back. Like, I'm sure when John Cena finally hangs it up and we stop having a reason to hate him, we'll look back and be like, oh yeah, but what a career though. Those guys, really, what a career though. From the beginnings of ECW to leaving the company to become a singles champion.
Legitimately, a tag team champion in all three.
In all the big ones, the
NWA.
Yeah.
AWA, BWA, BCW.
Never forgetting their roots the whole way, but managing to lead, company leading stables as the top guys, really, as the top members of their version of NWO, basically. Aces and Eights,
Of course.
And then managing to also transition back seamlessly to the WWE, go back to what got them there, and put on a show to please the crowd, for over 2 decades.
Yeah. I think you put it best. I can't add anything to that. They were revolutionaries. They were great characters, cool looks. You always knew who the Dudleys were, and that is the most important part of any professional wrestling career, is that you have a legacy, and the Dudleys may have the most enduring tag team legacy of anybody that I could think of. I mean, I wasn't of the LOD generation, so they're bigger in my mind than LOD.
Definitely for me, because LOD was just a little bit before my time.
Yeah.
Not guys that grew up able to watch on TV.
Not to mention,
the tragic ending of the LOD story.
Yeah. Oh, and how it ended up. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hyped it. Okay, moving on.
Okay. A little too close to home.
Yeah. Sorry. Final topic of the night. Let's wrap this up with a quick, we're not worthy.
Oh, yes.
We're not worthy.
I don't know if it's quite that far.
We're not worthy.
But I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt.
Miz did something cool this week in that he did something where not even the IWC can tell if it's a work or a shoot.
I think it's 100% work.
Right, but a lot of... Well, are you the entire IWC?
No, I'm just saying, are people really puzzled on this? Do people really think that he flew off the handle?
Boy, was he convincing. I mean, as far as the performance is concerned, absolutely it could be perceived that way. I don't think it's that unrealistic. However, the way he attacked him and how strategically he approached his series of arguments certainly does say it was a work. But, I mean, Daniel Bryan looking like a dog, like, not quite understanding that he's about to be put down, or Renee Young literally being like, guys, this isn't what it was about. Like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Like, all of that, I think, was really... I mean, Renee Young's not a good actress, and even she looked like she needed to crap herself after that.
Really? I thought it was just, like, really weird, overly dramatic Kardashian stuff, but it's still part of the best stuff The Miz has ever done, and it's real. It's truthful. It's, it's what nothing he said was really false.
For those of you who missed it, who don't have the WWE Network or haven't paid attention...
Did you just try to make a Miz pun?
No, not at all.
Oh.
For those of you who missed it, The Miz stormed on to Talking Smack near the end of the 15-minute segment, interrupting what was going to be an amicable discussion about future title winners, probably, to say, this is ridiculous. Why are they getting so much attention when I'm not? You're Intercontinental Champion. And then Daniel Bryan...
Which is exactly what we need for a long time, because the whole complaint they've had
I think it started off that way. I think it started off intended to be just a Intercontinental Championship matters too.
Well, right, because even though The Miz has been doing great promo work, there was still times when he wasn't defending it ever at pay-per-views or anything at all. There was no matches with him at all on TV. He was just holding it, doing fuck all with it. And, now that he's won legitimately over Apollo Crews, and people, I think, on the internet are buzzing about how he's actually doing a good job on the microphone.
Yeah. And in the ring.
But that whole segment to me was like, painful reality TV scripted shit. The only difference is that The Miz was bringing about the real emotion and real reasons. He said, I've been here. I haven't dropped the title. I still wrestle. Injured. I don't get injured. And he's hitting on the fact that Finn Balor just got injured. He's not just talking about Daniel Bryan. He's talking about the fact that a guy just dropped a major title, and the guy before him had to drop it.
Yeah, exactly.
Seth Rollins had to drop it. Finn had to drop it. And there's one other major injury in between that I forgot. Cena had time off.
Roman had to drop it because of other reasons.
Right,
Either way, they were medical.
Yeah, exactly. No, that I think there's, that's part of it too. He's like, I'm here. I don't fuck up. I'm not. I don't do stupid shit. I do what I'm told. I do my job, and I hold the title.
That's interesting. That in a way, he turned the attack. So basically, the discussion begins with, this is why you should be watching me on the Intercontinental Championship. It needs to be prestigious. It needs to be in the forefront.
Yeah.
All well and good. Very
It's
scripted.
true. It needs to be at least as important.
Then Daniel Bryan attacks, whether it be kayfabe or not, attacks his intestinal fortitude in the ring. He
calls him kind of wimpy.
He calls him cowardly in the ring. He questions his commitment to
and that's Daniel.
the in-ring work, and I think that's when The Miz at least has enough fuel to turn on a bit of a shoot and just channel it.
I mean, Daniel Bryan, I think, was just playing the character. You know, Daniel Bryan as a character on SmackDown as the GM, you know, the co-runner of the show. You know, he was just preying on what Miz's character is supposed to be. Miz's character is supposed to be all those things he just said.
Right.
And so the Miz, being a heel character, takes offense to that. You know?
Okay.
And I think it's all work. I think it was just what we need.
Very deftly done.
It's just what we need. We need someone who cares about the IC title, who's willing to get up in your fucking face about it, and we need heels who don't just lie, who don't say generic heel shit. We need heels who will say, fuck you, I'm right here. Where are you? What are you doing? You know, it's when the heels, you know, they'll pick on managers and be like, hey, why don't you come fight me? You know, not the wrestler guys. You know, that shit gets old after a while because we know the manager's not going to fight these guys. You know, but Daniel Bryan has a history of being in the ring, and we empathize for Daniel, so it's a great heel move to attack his career. They did the same thing with Edge. When Edge retired, you know, Seth Rollins did a fucking fantastic vignette where he puts his fucking foot on his head, on his neck, and said, come in here, man, I'll snap his freaking neck. Yeah. You know? And that's just preying on, you know, on the reality of the situation. And We've talked about this before. I don't know if we've talked about it on the podcast. The best stuff, the most iconic guys, except for maybe The Undertaker, get over from raw emotion.
Yeah.
The thing that's true. The thing that really excelled Shawn Michaels into the Attitude Era was DX. DX was spawned from him being kind of fed up with the business, kind of taking a heel turn in real life and in the biz. You know, him and his buddies getting together and saying, fuck you to the establishment, and Vince telling them don't do stuff they did anyway. The Rock, Rocky Maivia getting booed, pissed him off. He didn't understand it. The Rock says in interviews, you know, I was doing what I was told. I was the guy they wanted me to be. I was Johnny Be Good, and people fucking hated
Smile
me.
On the spot.
And so they said, hey, you're gonna go heel with the nation, you know, and stuff. And he was like, oh, great, cool. And you know, when him and Farouk were talking about doing shoots and stuff, or sorry, not shoots, but promos, so he's just like, yeah, just let me get out there and vent on these fans. You know, that first promo, Rocky sucks, you know, you guys suck, you know, all that shit. Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah. You know, just
his stuff in ECW that's always brought up where he,
you know, all of his legitimately, like, I hate this ringmaster shit. Mm-hmm. You know, all that stuff. You know,
Austin 316 was straight riff. Yeah. Not necessarily out of passion, just lucky. You stumble over these moments where real emotion does fuel the greatest propulsions in characters. I mean, need we say the pipe bomb?
Right. And as someone who's done improv and someone who's done theater and things like that, and someone who pontificates regularly, there's a moment where you're feeding yourself into a place you didn't know you were going to go. And when you discover it, the moment before you spiel it or you do it, you know, whatever it is, whatever your inspiration is, there's that instant moment of legitimate excitement that hits you. Absolutely. And that's some of the best stuff in wrestling. You get it from announcers, from JR. You can hear it in his voice. You get it from wrestlers. You get it from managers. You get it from everyone in the business. You get it from guys when they reminisce about that. You know, Mick Foley talking about his Mankind promos, all just legitimate frustration with how people viewed him in the business. You know, and most of these guys are not great writers. They're not scripting out and memorizing lines. You know, and you just, and that energy, it just fuels you to just keep going. You know, it drags you through a segment.
Oh, I've cut some promos on, you know, friends and relationships in my life. I've cut some serious promos. It's kind of how it goes. You start creating and you get invested, and then you keep on creating. And I think The Miz, man, I thought he was going to cry a little bit. Like, that's how real it felt. And that's
But also, part of that is the setting that it's in. It's no longer in an arena. It's no longer backstage somewhere. It's no longer just after a wrestling match or prepped up in character. It's on a real quiet talk show set, where it's very personal, very intimate. The setting itself lends itself to that weird awkwardness, which is why I said it just reminded me a lot of reality TV.
Sure.
Weird, awkward camera cuts,
Well, and if anybody would be able to navigate his way around some semblance of reality, it would be The Miz. But it was an enjoyable...
It's talk of the week.
I don't want to say enjoyable. It was a... Enthralling. Yes. No, I was going to say refreshing, but that still wasn't it either. It was enthralling.
And it's quite...
It had gravity.
Yeah, it's very... And I think that's very much the word, because I had turned it on... I put it on YouTube, because I usually go through highlights first, so I know exactly what not to miss, I at least look at the names of all the highlights. So when I go through and watch the shows, I make sure I don't accidentally skip over something. If I miss it and I have to go back and watch it, I have to go find where it is. And sometimes you just can tell by the highlights that there's nothing worth seeing until someone brings it up to you. So, but, I turned it on for a second just to give it the chance. It might have even been on autoplay on YouTube, and I didn't actually click on it. But it started up, and I was like, all right, I'll give this a second to go. And then next thing I know, I watched the whole fucking video. I watched the whole segment.
Oh, yeah.
I just started, and I was like, oh, The Miz is going to talk. Lame. Hopefully he can... I'm like, oh, Maurice isn't there. This probably won't be as good. This will probably... And it's talking smack. It's not been...
Oh, Maurice was there.
But she wasn't involved. She wasn't there.
No.
Yeah, most of his best stuff is when he's kissing her, the baby talk.
Oh, that's pretty gross.
Yeah, and she talks to him in French. I think it's great. It's all great.
That's great.
Yeah, but the point is I was like, oh, he's not doing stupid, smuggy shit with Maurice. It's probably gonna suck. But it caught me. It just the littlest bit caught me, and that's the best stuff in wrestling, man.
Absolutely.
That's what got me to watch wrestling. Literally in the first place.
It's the blend of reality.
I was flipping through channels and I went, oh shit, what did those guys just do? And I ended up watching and sitting through the whole thing.
I'm 100% with you.
Yeah.
I'm enthralled by what happens next. So I guess my final question to you for the night is, what comes out of this segment?
I think you're gonna see The Miz wrestle more legitimately. Daniel Bryan's gonna give him a series of challenges to test his manliness and his non-cowardliness to see if he's really got what it takes. I hope they don't do any kind of moniker or any kind of reference to his original origins in wrestling on Tough Enough. I hope it does not become a Tough Enough-esque, competition style thing where they try to make them do what was it for the Divas thing? Obstacle courses or some shit? Or remember when NXT NXT was a reality show where they all had pros who watched over them and they would do challenges and shit.
That's a failed experiment.
Yeah, sure. Hopefully,
it was a great way to introduce guys like Brian and Husky Harris.
I don't know if it was a great way, but it was
Wade Barrett.
It was a way.
It launched Wade Barrett until he fell off.
It gave them a group that they could name as they brought up. That's all they know.
All right. So
the only stuff that's ever worth watching is Caitlyn and AJ Lee being totally lesbo for each other. I miss you, Caitlyn. And AJ. I miss them both.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see who goes over this next upcoming week. We're going to have a new Universal Champion by the end of Raw tomorrow. We're going to see what SmackDown does to keep pace. We're also going to see in a couple weeks here the debut of the Cruiserweight division.
I'll finish the Cruiserweight Classic.
Hey, just keep up with it.
Yeah,
it's
I'll get all caught
legitimately everything that we want to watch on television.
Yep, and we both got to start getting better at watching NXT every week to know what's coming up. And we got to start going to FSW shows.
Well, I agree. This week was Ty Dillinger looking good in his match. I watched that NXT match, and I think there was one other one that was... No, you're right. I got to watch NXT.
Got to watch NXT.
Yeah.
Right,
So anyway, guys, I've been Roz Warren. Can't wait to see you next week.
I'm Sam the Lionheart.
And we'll see you to find out who goes over next week. Later, guys.
Have a good one. I'll see you guys next week.